So some backstory. I have this really cool Beyond the Clocktower custom script themed around Rhythm Heaven, and I need to play test it. But there's a problem. None of my friends know what Beyond the Clocktower is, so I can't really play test it with them. So like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna play test it? Easy. Jigglypuffs. The Jigglypuff Grimoire is the result of 3 months of hard labor, a lot of trips to the art store, and a lot of sanity sacrificed. And I haven't even playtested the Rhythm Heaven script yet. Would it have been easier and cheaper to just get an official Grimoire? Absolutely. But the official one doesn't have Jigglypuffs, so there's that. The actual Grimoire is a cigar box. I don't smoke. It's just a lot of art stores have these things because they make great storage. Pro tip, don't get the ones that have like really glossy paint or varnish because those are horrible to paint. Yeah, I used acrylic paint and gold ink, and I put some foam inside for the tokens. The pouch comes from like those things where you like buy a bunch of rocks for $5. They're really awesome, if you know what I'm talking about. The town square. The town square is a hard board with a pin super glued in the middle so that the clock hands can move. I painted those too. It was also a nightmare to paint. And depending on the number of like player tokens on town square, sometimes the clock hands can't move, but like, that's okay. It's all about the vibes, you know? I also put the traveler sheet on for ease of access. And let's talk about those tokens. And here are some life tokens. These are just like wooden discs and hearts that I painted with acrylic paint and Mod Podge. There's a lot of Mod Podge in this project. I love Mod Podge. Mod Podge Nation Unite. Am I right? This was kind of like a last minute sort of thing. Originally I used rhinestones, but those weren't as good. These pouches I made by gluing instead of sewing with some scrap fabric I have. But you don't care about all this. You care about the weird Jigglypuffs. Here they are. So this was originally just like me drawing Jigglypuffs as the different like roles in Clocktower. Characters. And then when I started making the Jigglypuff Grimoire, I used those drawings to make the tokens. This is Clayboard. I don't remember the company. I'll put it up on the screen. But they come in like these 1x1, like 1 inch by 1 inch squares, and then like 1x2. And so I used the 1x1s for the character tokens, and for the reminder tokens, I used the 1x2. They are awesome. And if you're wondering like what the shiny coat on top of it is, it's not resin. I'm not in a place where I can safely use resin. It's Mod Podge, Dimensional Magic. And it is the greatest thing on Earth. Even greater than bread. I love Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. And the only problem is sometimes there are mistakes. Sometimes there's dents or there's bubbles in the Jigglypuff, but you know what? That doesn't matter. What matters is that they are jiggly and they are puffy. This is probably my favorite part of making the Grimoire because I love drawing weird Jigglypuffs. And people love seeing weird Jigglypuffs, so everyone wins in this scenario. They also make really nice sounds when you move them around. So I'll just shut up and let them play. I drew these all with alcohol-based markers, like Prismacolors and Copics, and I inked them with, like, I want to say Faber-Castells and Microns. Some of the colors, like, bled, and some of them, like, faded when they dried in the dimensional magic drying process. I don't entirely know why some of them acted this way and some of them didn't. If you know, like, the chemistry of alcohol markers, I would be very curious to figure out why this happened. Anyway, they all go in this little box. It's a fishing tackle box that my dad gave me. He was like, hey, you're sorting these Jigglypuff tokens, you're making this whole project. I have a fishing tackle box if you think it would be useful. And it ended up being useful because it has the little, like, inserts to, like, divide up the fishing tackle. And, like, it's customizable, sort of. And so I was able to, like, make different, like, sections for the different character types and sort them in those, and in a way where there was enough space for all the tokens, but also when future editions that come out, I can make the tokens and then have enough space for them in the box. It was a pain at first to, like, sort. I'm very, like, I love organizing things, but I also I get very overwhelmed by the process of, like, figuring out how to organize things, and so I didn't know, like, how to sort them, so I ended up sorting them by character type, and then, like, within those boxes, like, I would place them in order of, like, addition. So, like, I would put in the Trouble Brewings, then the Sex and Violets, then the Bad Moon Rising, and then the experimental ones. It's kind of meant to be future-proof in a way, so that, like, when new editions do come out, I can, like, resort them internally within those sections to accommodate for that. Yeah. I painted this with acrylic paint too, in Mod Podge. I don't have the means or the place to safely use stuff like spray paint and spray on varnish, and so a lot of this is the result of that. It would have been, like, easier, simpler, and more effective to use spray paint and stuff, but sometimes you gotta just make do with what you have. And the beauty, I think, in projects like this is, like, working around restrictions, because you can find a lot of, like, interesting ways of solving problems. Like, I couldn't find circular tokens. Originally, I wanted the character tokens to be circular, but they only had the squares, and they ended up being one of my favorite art things, the clay boards. Like, I wouldn't have ever found them if I had, like, stuck to, like, okay, we need these to be circles, they can't be squares. And I wouldn't have ever, if I had just stuck to that, I wouldn't have ever, like, explored the clay boards and realized, wait, these are, like, man's greatest invention. I guess that also extends to, like, the designs of the Jigglypuff. Like, with the Jigglypuff character token, oh my gosh, you have to convey the idea of the character with a simple Jigglypuff drawing. And so I had a bunch of iterations, not a bunch of iterations, but I had, like, drawings in my sketchbook, like, of the characters before I would, like, draw them on the tokens. And sometimes the designs wouldn't read as well. Like, for example, I had a hard time, like, distinguishing the noble, the king, and the princess. And so I had to refine the designs so that they would be more distinguished, if that makes sense. Another thing is the original Investigator Jigglypuff had, like, the Sherlock Holmes detective cape, I want to say, and hat, and it also had a pipe, like the curvy pipe, but the problem is that the philosopher character in Clocktower is also represented by the pipe. And so when I would show it to people, sometimes they would get confused and think that the investigator was the philosopher. And so when I made the final tokens, that was something I had to, like, reconsider, you know? And It was also interesting to be able to like use this as an opportunity to practice like character design and stuff, and also research. There's a lot of research that went into making these Jigglypuffs. Research is also one of my favorite parts of doing anything creative. I just love learning about things I otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn about. I love exploring new things and adding it into long term to my visual library, you know? And it just opens your doors. It opens so many doors. Like for the Voodoo Jigglypuff, the Voodoo Jigglypuff, I did a lot of research into voodoo practices and the loas, which are like the spirits in voodoo belief, and the veves, which are like symbols that represent the loas. They're important to rituals and communicating with the loas. Another thing that was interesting was like adapting clothes that were made for humans onto like pink puffballs. Like for the damsel and the Shigenja, like they're wearing clothes. But how does a Jigglypuff wear clothes? How does that work? How long are their pants? How long are the skirts? Stuff like that. It's also important that they be like identifiable from such a small size. Like not like super duper far away, but like you need to be able to like see it and go, oh yeah, that's the spy, that's the Kazali, that's a plane flying overhead, plain Lord Gwen. You may have noticed that the Pope is not here. I need to figure out how to do the Pope, because the icon for it is an apple, but I could also do a Pope Jigglypuff. And so I'm debating, like, do I do an apple Jigglypuff? Do I do a Pope Jigglypuff? Do I do an apple Jigglypuff who's the Pope? I don't know. The reminder tokens were a lot of fun. There's a lot of funny little jokes and stuff in them, and maybe they don't follow like the actual conventions of how the reminder tokens are written in the official Grimoire, but you know, there are already a bunch of weird Jigglypuffs. Why not have more weird Jigglypuffs and weird things for them to say? I will shut up so you can listen to the nice sounds of me putting the reminder tokens back. This is a holder for reminder tokens and stuff during the night phase, but the back also is a dry erase board, sort of, so that I can write down info instead. I printed out all the scripts for the base 3 editions, and then I also had this way of making teensy scripts, and I think that turned out cool. And finally, we have these books that I amateurly bookbinded with staples and glue and cardboard. This is resources from the wiki, like the setup and like the player advice. I also made an almanac in the same way with character stuff so that there'd be an easy reference when playing to explain things. The gold paper is from Paper Source. They're like dividers between the editions. Yeah. Overall, I'm really proud of this project. Like, there's something nice about making a thing like this, like a physical object, and being able to hold it in your hands and go, I made this. And like feeling the hours of labor and hours of time and effort you put into it, and the hours of love especially. Just like, I made a thing. I made a weird thing, and that's awesome. And so my advice, I guess, would be like, make things. Make weird things, make Jigglypuff things, make Grimoire things. Just make things. In like a world of AI and people trying to tell you that everything should be automated and not done by humans, be a human and make things. Thanks for watching and listening.